Good morning everyone, my name is Prashant Patil and I will be presenting my MTP project, that is exploration with natural fibers and natural resins for furniture design. Before starting, I would like to thank my guide Professor Supradeep Das sir and Professor AK Das sir. So I'll be talking about one problem which our environment is facing today, that is due to agricultural waste. Agriculture waste is nothing but the leaves, straws, and husks which are generated in the fields after the harvest. And billions of tons of agricultural waste are generated each year in the developed and the developing countries. Many farmers choose to burn this waste in the open fields. Due to this, the agriculture burning has caused a big impact on the global atmospheric chemistry. It generates a lot of carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, and hydrocarbons, especially in the tropics. Some of the agricultural wastes are sent to the landfills or left on the ground to decompose. Due to this, uncontrolled land disposal pollutes the groundwater and the surface water, which causes eutrophication. And when this biomass-induced microflora is incorporated into the soil, it stimulates the production of and emission of greenhouse gases like nitrogen oxides, which have a bigger and much higher global warming potential than carbon dioxide. Similarly, like agricultural waste, forestry waste is also generated. To meet the ever-increasing demand for wood, fiber, energy, civil construction, resin, latex, and other materials, new forests have been established under the new plan of environment for the environment. To protect the environment, industries and elite companies are planting more trees than they use. Because of this, the companies are cutting down the trees and a lot of lumber wastes are generated. Lumber wastes are nothing but the saw timber, branches of tree tops, offcuts of timbers, which are all generated while cutting down. That is the unwanted part of the tree. Greater part of the forest waste is used in the production of biofuel, like the the branches and all the twigs which are which are fallen, which are cut off. They are used for biofuel. However, the wider utilization of the lumber waste is hindered by large costs of their processing and transportation. For this reason, a substantial part of lumbering waste remains in the forest. Use of plastic has increased in almost all industries and it has been replaced by wood, glass, and metal. And due to its properties, it has become a global trade in many countries. Due to the increase in the production of these polymers, the pollution in seas and environment has increased. Polymer is very difficult to decompose and break down into smaller particles. And one of the most common approach to dispose these polymers is landfilling. And it takes years and years to decompose and degrade in this landfilling process. And it is said to be that it is one of the most worst option with greatest environmental impact. So what are the uses of agriculture and the forestry waste? Some of the uses are using it as a biofuel and using it as a substitute for plastic. For example, bagasse, which is a byproduct of sugar cane. Once the juice is removed, the bagasse can be used for making spoons, cups, and other products. It can also can be used for making bioplastic, which is used for packaging nowadays. The waste can be used for as a compost in agriculture. And what is the solution for the polymer waste? Reducing and reusing the plastic, like refusing the plastic and reusing the same plastic more than once. Like instead of throwing it away, you can use it. And another viable way is to recycle the plastic. It can be a mechanical recycle, it can be chemical or energy recovery type of recycle. In mechanical recycle, the plastic is broken down into small pieces, melted, and put into a desired mold or a shape of mold which we want, and a new plastic product is formed. But in this, the drawback is that again a plastic is created. You can just use it again and again, but you can't eliminate it completely. Plastic takes a lot of your time to decompose. The aim of the project is to explore such waste materials and combine them together with natural resins and come up with a composite material which can potentially replace conventional commercial materials. What are natural fiber composites? Natural fiber composites are the composites which are reinforced with natural fibers using binders which holds them. Using different manufacturing techniques, these binders and fibers are infused together to form a natural fiber composite. Natural fibers are nothing but a sustainable material which comes from plants or animals. They are categorized into plant and animals. Uh, Plant fibers include cotton, jute, quinoa, pineapple leaf fibers, banana fibers, and animal fibers are the fibers like human hair. Human hair is an example of animal fiber. And these natural fibers have a very good advantage, like they are low cost and lightweight, renewable, and their biodegradability is very good compared to other materials and high specific properties. The sustainability of the natural fiber-based composites has led to upsurge its application in various manufacturing sectors. Uh, plant Plant fibers are generally characterized as primary and secondary based and on how they are used. Primary plants are those that are grown for their fiber content, while secondary plant fibers are those that produce fibers as a byproduct. Main plants include jute, cotton, kinaf, and sisal. Primary plants include pineapple, oil palm, and coir. And India produces a total of 9% out of the total fibers produced, excluding cotton. So based on the research study, it was found that plant fibers that are easily available in India are date palm, pineapple, areca, coconut, bamboo, bagasse, sisal, roselle, kinaf, cotton, jute and flax. Some of the most common fibers which are widely used today are cotton, cot, uh, jute and flax. As per the availability of the plant fibers, I focused on banana fibers and areca fibers. Areca nut tree is widely grown in Assam and is known for its nut all over Assam. It is also called as betel nut, and the nuts are called tamul. Areca nut sheds 5 to 6 leaves per year, and these leaf sheds are used for making disposable plates and most of the time left on the ground uh, or disposed in some garbage landfill. I even extracted the fibers of banana, but the fibers were very flexible and didn't have the strength. The fibers extracted from the banana were very shiny and flexible, and they could be used for weaving purpose. As the extraction process for both banana fibers and areca fibers was similar, uh, the leaf sheds and the stems of the banana were uh, were immersed in the water for 20 to 25 days, and after the water spoils the stem and the sheds, the gummy part from these stems and sheds were loosened and the fibers could be extracted easily through scraping or by rolling a rod or a round surface over it. As areca leaf sheds and palm leaf sheds share similar characteristics, I chose palm leaf trees for my further fiber extraction process. And royal palm trees were easily available in the campus in front of the old guest house, as we can see in the picture. These are the royal palm trees. in front of the old guest house. They are also known as Rostonia regia or the Florida royal palm and is a palm species. It is an ornamental tree which is mostly found in the tropics and subtropics, and a single tree has about 15 leaves that can measure up to 4 meters. The seed is used for making oil and feed for livestock. Thatching is done with the leaves of royal palm, and it is used for building and construction too. It is also used for medical purpose. As very few research and composites were made from these fibers, it was a nice opportunity to explore it. And a study said that the fibers extracted from the royal palm leaf sheath were found to be comparable to the sisal fibers, but with lower density, making it a possible source for lightweight composite material. So I documented the fiber extraction process of the royal palm leaf sheaths. So this is how it was done. After the material study of the three gums and resins, it was clear that natural gums and natural resins are slightly different. They show different properties and characteristics. Um, the three gums and resins which I studied were Moringa gum, also called as Lal Gond, Google resins, also called as Dhoop, Acacia gum resins, also called as Dink. Like natural gums are a group of plant products that are formed from plant cellulose disintegration, and this process is called gummosis. They are water solubles and they soften and swell when mixed with water. They decompose completely without melting when heated. They come from plants in form of liquid, and when they are in contact with the air, they get hardened and they become translucent bodies. And natural resins are resins Actually, they ooze and exude from the tree barks and harden when exposed to the air. They are not soluble in water. And gum resins show the combination of both gums and resins. Uh, Acacia gum resin is a natural gum resin which I studied, and it is used in foods, and it is used in uh, it is used in sweets, in laddus. DIY material exploration, that is do-it-yourself material exploration, was done in order to check the behavior and the properties of different materials and their connection with the natural fibers and gums and resins. Even after the efforts are being made by many people to dispose plastic, the end product is still the plastic. So researchers and developers are coming up and developing bioplastics which are environmentally friendly. Uh, so to begin with, I did a normal bioplastic recipe. I followed a bioplastic recipe, and after mixing all the ingredients such as vinegar, glycerin, cornstarch, and water, uh, the end product was very soft and slimy, and very viscous, thick material. With the help of with a card, I spread it in the petri dish with a very less thickness, and after drying, it was very elastic. It was like it looked like a plastic, and the finish was very smooth. It was translucent. It was flexible, lightweight. So these were my understanding after the bioplastic recipe. So in the next experiment, I added acacia gum. When acacia gum was added, the bioplastic recipe, uh, the surface became slimy for almost 3 days, indicating that the gum absorbs water and retains it in a sticky, viscous state. When material was left to dry in the sunlight for 3 days, uh, in the sunlight, the water vaporized all the water from the material, making it brittle. So as the water was absorbed, only the gum was left behind. So one observation was that acacia gum has high degree of absorption, and uh, from the from the experiments, I also found that glycerin is used as a lubricator. It lubricates the material. So adding more glycerin would make the material more pliable, and vice versa. Less the glycerin, less it will be more brittle. The polymer chains are broken by applying a small amount of vinegar, making the material less brittle. The material was partially reflective, lightweight, and it was brownish in color because of acacia gum. And the the texture was rough, granular texture it had, and the opacity was high. So in the next experiment, lal gond was used in the same bioplastic recipe. Uh, the lal gond uh, sh- gum was kept in water for almost 2 days to check the water solubility, but it did not show any solubility in it, and instead left a small trace of red color into the water, and it was as strong as it was before. Uh, as it is solid in natural state, it was powdered and then mixed with the other ingredients of the bioplastic. And as water was, as it didn't absorb the water, Lalgund, water was not considered in this experiment. Uh, the effect of the lactic oxide on the final material was investigated. The lal gond and cornstarch blended well, and the viscous property of glycerin and castor kept the material together, forming a paste. but again it was a very powdery paste like substance, and all the grains and pores were visible, and it was easily uh, broken. It could be easily broken, and even in the powdered form, lal gond was very uh, few in if many binding properties. It is difficult to bind and has a high melting point. Fibers with different lengths were mixed with the binder resin in different orientation in the experiment, and the results were reported. The watercolor changed after the small chunks of lal gund were soaked in water for almost 10 days, and the chunks were jelly, like squishy balls. After the cornstarch was mixed with water and lal gond, the ingredients were simple to combine, yielding a viscous bioplastic with water, making water absorption difficult. PLA granules is a thermoplastic material, so it became soft and malleable at 120 to 140 degrees Celsius when heated, and takes the place of the molded when cooled. Dope was mixed with PLA and heated till they mixed well and became a soft malleable paste. It took time for both of them to mix. Then the long fibers were mixed well with binder paste. The end material was slightly brittle but had good bending strength. Because of the PLA, the material was translucent and had a brown color. Uh, Lightweight and easy to shape. It was glossy and had a pleasant aroma as dhoop was used. So dhoop emits fragrance when burned. The last two experiments were the final composite. So I will explain the complete process of how I did the recipe. So first of all, I took castor oil and applied it to the inner surface of the cooking vessel. After which 1 tablespoon of guggul gum or dhoop powder is added to the vessel. The vessel is then heated and the poured powder is stirred until it starts to melt. The mixture turns into liquid and also produces a pleasant aroma, and in this part of the process, 1 tablespoon of glycerin and 1 tablespoon of castor oil is added to the mixture. After a few minutes, 1 tablespoon of grinded fibers obtained from the palm leaf sheath is added to, and the mixture is constantly stirred until it turns into uniform paste-like composite solution. The solution is then poured onto a wooden cuboid mold for the solution to take its place, after which uh, a flat wooden block is used to press the solution in order to make it compressed and compact. The composite is then allowed to cool down. When uh, when when it cools down, it takes the shape of the mold. The composite is then allowed to cool down. The solid composite is removed from the mold, and the more the pressure is applied to it, the more uh, the composite will be strong. The more it gets compact, leaving little to no hollow pores, as these pores may limit the strength of the composite material. The procedure is first done with the use of fiber strands that are long and staged in layers on top of the other in crisscross manner, and then casted onto a slab-shaped mold of 1 centimeter in thickness. Upon observation, the composite material seems strong, but when slight pressure is applied, breaking sound can be heard. This is caused by because of the brittleness of the binder. Uh, this is the material is a bit brittle because of the crisscross uh, orientation of the fibers, and then casted onto a slab-shaped mold of 1 centimeter in thickness. So when there's a thick crisscross manner, uh, the the resin, the molten resin does not grow properly into the voids of the long strands. So that's the reason it becomes a bit brittle. And Dhoop solution, which acts as a binding material, it cannot penetrate inside properly. The same procedure is done this time with fine grinded fibers which are grounded in the mixer, and a mold of 1 by 1 inch cubical pipe was used, steel pipe. The resultant material is found to show great strength and resistance to breaking. The final composite material was named as Dhol because of its natural materials like Dhoop and Royal Palm fibers. Dome is a short for uh, DHO from Dhoop and LM from Palm. Compression molding is done for the dome composite uh, to make the solid and compact dome composite. The hot composite material is poured into the mold of the desired shape and size after it has been cooked. With a spoon or other flat object, the bulk preheated material is pushed into the corners. Compression can be done in two ways. One method is to use a flat metal plate or a wooden piece, and other method is to use a metal plate or a wooden piece that is the same shape of the mold as the press die. When using a flat metal plate or a wooden piece, additional material must be added to the mold so that when pressure is applied using a hydraulic press at 100 Pascal, the hot material is properly pressed away or pressed down into the mold in all the corners. The pressure is kept to until the cure is achieved, until it cools down. The composite is removed after it has completely cooled down. Machinability of natural fiber composite depends on the physical properties of the materials used for making the composite. Some of the main processes like drilling, sanding, grinding, and sawing was done in order to check the machinability of the dome composite. Uh, due to due to poor sensitivity to heat damage and weakness in the thickness direction, drilling composites were more difficult than drilling metals. Um, Sanding was comparatively easy as a result of increased speed and heat produced by the grinding tool. The composite does not chip, and shearing of the material is visible, creating a smooth, glossy surface, and that gets hot and soft. The finish of the surface is determined by the grinding tool used. And it also depends upon the wheel and the speed of the grinding tool. It cuts the it cuts off the composite while creating smooth surfaces, uh, smooth surface texture in the process. And in sawing, it enables a continuous cut, and a smooth cut was also achieved by cutting the composite perpendicular with the bandsaw. The finish is determined by the bandsaw's speed. The slower the speed, the more chips are formed. Very fine chips were formed when drilling was performed with the composite. So to avoid the chip formation, proper tool geometry and operating conditions must be used to reduce the amount of heat produced, and to reduce the chip formation and thermal damage of the component also. The swelling test of the composite was performed to analyze the water absorption in different solutions and analyze the absorption capacity of the composite. The composite of dimensions 1:1 centimeter square were cut and immersed in 4 different solutions, which were 15% NaCl, PBS 4.27, PBS 808, and tap water. A small piece of each composite was weighed and immersed in different aforesaid chemical media for a specific period of 12 days at room temperature. The sample was then removed at every 3 days for up to 12 days. The samples were removed and dried using a blotting paper to remove the excess water content over it. After drying, the samples were weighed till 4 decimals and a difference of initial and the final weight was calculated. The said test was performed in duplicates and the data was represented with its respective standard deviation. So after the tests were performed, the observations which was seen was the samples of 15% NaCl showed least swelling, samples of tap water showed maximum swelling, swelling of PBS 4.27 acidic samples were slightly higher than PBS 808 basic samples. The swelling percent reached saturation on the ninth day in all the solvents. Maximum swelling is 25% observed in tap water, couldn't observe any solution after saturation. The degradation test was performed to check the degradation rate of the composite. In this experiment, E. coli bacteria, whose lifespan was 12 hours, was used. Uh, Using the equation y is equals to a 1 minus e raised to minus kt, the degradation rate was calculated at which the composite will degrade. K is equals to 0.00123 was the value obtained from the equation, and that value of K was used to find the half-life of the composite. T50 is equals to 3.36 weeks. The half-life of the composite was 3.36 weeks. That means the composite will degrade in will the half of the composite will degrade in 3.36 weeks. From the graph we can see that the degradation rate is increasing with increase in the time. It is also observed that the bacteria was feeding on the composite even after it had reached the saturation level. That means the bacteria were growing and were feeding on the composites. That means that the composite is a biodegradable composite, and it will degrade in 3.36 week. Half of the composite will degrade in 3.36 weeks. TGA and TT analysis of the material was performed. TGA is the thermogravimetric analysis and DTA is differential thermal analysis. TGA is a technique in which upon heating a material its weight increases or decreases. Below are the two graphs which we got after the tests were performed. Uh, as we can see that the TGA line, that is the green color, is almost parallel. That means that there is very less weight loss in the material. That is, the material is thermally stable. In the weight loss percent versus temperature graph, as the temperature rises, the weight of the sample increases by 0.321% from 24 to 49 degrees Celsius. The curve shows a declination of 49 degrees Celsius, showing weight loss of the sample. After observing the TJ and DTA curve under argon atmosphere, it was found that material is stable at room temperature, and at specific temperature there will be endothermic peak which occurs due to removal of moisture. The Chapi's impact test was performed, which measures the amount of energy that is absorbed by the specimen at the point when it fractures. The difference in the potential energy is the fracture energy. So the fracture energy was 8 joules. Ergonomic guidelines are necessary to be considered while designing a chair, like the seat specification, The seat should take the weight of the feet in order to lessen the stress on your legs, and the seat height should be adjustable so that a person can rest his feet flat on the floor, and if not, use a footrest, uh, and we need to plant our feet flat on the floor so that our spine, because the spine takes the body weight while while we are standing, and knees above hips. We should adjust our chair seat so that your hips are slightly above your knees. This position places the least amount of stress on the ankles, knees, and hips. The chair was designed considering the anthropometric data of 4 to 5 years old children. The footrest should be at a height where 5th percentile and the 95th percentile kid can keep their feet without any difficulty. The population's height of the 5th percentile and the 95th percentile should be considered for this. The footrest should have a bent backward inclination because the heels of the feet are slightly raised. So the footrest should support the heels as well while keeping the legs on the footrest. For this, the popliteal height of 5th percentile and the popliteal height of the 95th percentile was considered for uh, for knowing the footrest height, uh, because because a 5th percentile child can easily sit on a larger seat, but a tall person cannot sit in a small seat. The hip breadth of the 95th percentile should be considered for seat width. That is, the hip breadth of 95th percentile is 22.8 centimeter, where a small person can also sit without any problem. The seat length should be more than the 5th percentile of the buttock popliteal length, because a very short seat length will hurt a tall person's thighs. However, a person can sit on the buttocks till the mid of thighs without any problem. So the buttock to popliteal length of both 5th and 95th percentile children was considered, and even the 50th percent of the 5th percentile and the 50th percentile of the 95th percentile of the seat length was considered. The primary inspiration of making the chair were the kids playing using fallen areca leaf sheds. The holding position of the arms and the feeling of moving when being dragged were the elements extracted from the design, and the minimalist minimalist approach of the Scandinavian designs was also was taken as an inspiration for designing the chair. These were the initial rough sketches which were made before coming to the final design concept. So I have made a compilation video of the making of chair and the composite seat.
ভাল লাগিছে?
The chair was used by two users, Yashraj Nandini, thus 8 years old, and Bhumika Kalita, 4 years old. The feedback was positive. The rocking design of the chair was enjoyed by them. The feel and design of the product was commended by the users. They wished to keep the product, and when inquired if they would like for their parents for the product, they answered without hesitation with positive response. First, the feedback received was the footrest is quite thin and flatter surface of the footrest would be a better solution. Secondly, Bhumika, who is 5 years old, had some difficulty climbing on the chair, while Yash Rajnandini, who is 8 years old, expressed no issues sitting on the chair, suggesting future exploration for specific range of age groups. Even though Yash Ranjani is tall and was not able to comfortably rest her feet on the front end of the footrest, she could easily rest her feet on the midsection of the footrest, suggesting having a footrest that is flexible with children of varying heights is a good approach. Other two children, Riyan Ghosh, 5 years old, and Tadgata Patak, 4 years old, sat on the chair and they were smiling throughout the play. After the feedback which I got from the users, I made a 3D animation. I redesigned the existing the final concept which I had made, and this is the video for it.
This looks so beautiful. I do make
As you can see, there are two scenarios in which a tall person and a short person are sitting on the same rocking chair, and the short person can keep his legs on the footrest without any problem, as it was designed considering the popliteal height of the fifth percentile, that is a short person's height, and whereas a tall person can keep his legs on the rocker bottom, or he can keep his legs on the footrest which was designed for a short person by raising his knees in the air, and they can sit properly. As you can see, a short person can sit on the seat without any difficulty, as it is it is wide, and the length is big enough for him to sit properly, and the seat was designed perfectly for the tall person, so even a tall person doesn't find any difficulty while sitting on the chair. This is a side view of the kids sitting on the rocker chair. Uh, they can they can hold the handle in two different positions. For a short person, the inner handle is can be used, and for a tall person, the outer handle can be used for holding the chair. Here are the dimensions of the rocking chair, in which the ergonomics and the anthropometric measurements were considered. Here are the 3D model renders of the redesigned chair. Future scope. The pending tests will be performed to make further modifications if required, depending on the results of the tests. A comparative study of the material will be done, comparing it with polymers and wood, so that it can potentially be used as an alternative for wood and polymers. Due to pandemic situation, very few users tested the rocking for user testing. Hence, more feedback and suggestions will be taken and considered in the future. As the material used in the current design is brass, which can be used as a luxury product. A cheaper version of the product could perhaps be made replacing brass with either bamboo or cane. As bamboo is abundant in Northeast India, using it for economic version of the chair can enhance the use of bamboo for making other similar products made from it. Production of the rocking chair can provide employment and popularize the handicraft of Northeast India. I would like to conclude my presentation and thank you for your time.